Good morning, guys. What we're going to be talking about today is reprogramming the subconscious mind. So, as I mentioned last week in the School of Consciousness, over the next 3 weeks, or including last week, this week, next week, we're going to be talking about a new method that I'm going to be introducing to our community this year. And it really is a three-step process, right? The first step is regulating the nervous system. The second step is reprogramming the subconscious mind. And the third step is really healing emotional triggers. Now, these three steps are really the process that I believe will lead you to creating mind, body, and spirit alignment and really becoming a conscious creator of your life. So these are the kind of steps that I've walked hundreds of people through to go from anxiety to alignment. And over the years, I've kind of called it different things, and I've kind of been playing around with different, names for this kind of process. But I'm really feeling quite confident and strong in this current version of the method. So I'm going to share it with you guys now in case you missed last week's session. Another thing that I'm going to be doing this year is I really want to make these School of Consciousness sessions better, right? So my vision for the School of Consciousness, just so you guys know, if you guys are here with me live, you're obviously in the coaching community, you've got access to everything in the community. But my vision for the School of Consciousness, and as you would know, is that I post the replays of these classes up onto YouTube. And my vision for the School of Consciousness is to really create uh, an opportunity for people to learn through this School of Consciousness, right? And I want to create a really, significant online school or platform that people can actually come in and, educate themselves on how to deal with mental health issues, how to, find a stronger sense of well-being, and really to find some direction in life, to learn how to manage their inner world, their thoughts, their emotions, so that they can get on the straight and narrow. And that's really my intention for School of Consciousness this year. And it's really something that I'm going to want to work on this year a lot, is just really upgrading, these classes, these sessions, and how I'm presenting everything. So anyway, without going too much more into that, let's just talk about this method, right? So we regulate the nervous system first, and this is what we spoke about last week in the School of Consciousness, right? And this is really just about reducing your stress and anxiety quickly, right? Regulating your nervous system is about reducing the stress and anxiety. And now, if you're someone who is interested in this work and you're finding yourself stressed, anxious, overwhelmed, even like unfulfilled or lacking direction or a bit stuck, um, this is really one of the most important things to work on first, right? You've just got to reduce your stress and anxiety and find some sense of calm internally. So let me just give you a bit of an example of why this is so important. I was at I went for a run this morning with a bunch of my mates, right? Now, one of my mates, he runs a really successful e-commerce business. So he has a really successful online business, right? It's doing really well for himself. And he mentioned to me this morning that he's feeling extremely stressed coming into this year. Now, he has no financial worries, right? He has a great relationship with his wife, and he seems to have it all externally, right? But internally, he is a bit of a mess, right? He doesn't really know what he wants to do with this year. He's feeling a bit hopeless about, like, what do I do this year? Do I just continue to do what I'm doing in the business? Like, I'm earning good money, but I'm just seem to be, like what am I doing? He's lacking purpose, he's lacking direction, he's lacking fulfillment, right? And so most people think, oh, well, I just need to find something that makes me feel purposeful. I just need to find something that, I just need to find that alignment, or I need to find some direction. I need to find something to make me feel better, right? And again, we usually look outside for something outside of ourselves to feel better. However, through my experience helping people, I know that one of the first things you've got to do is just reduce the stress and anxiety. So he's feeling all of this emotion, right? A lot of, like, he's got nothing to stress about, but he's feeling stressed. It's because of his emotions, right? He's probably feeling a bit hopeless. He's probably dreading doing a whole nother year of work, not knowing why he's doing it, feeling maybe internally a bit frustrated, a bit confused. So he is a perfect case of the windscreen being dirty. right? That's how I explain it. People who have high levels of stress and high level of anxiety, they can't see clearly. They're confused, right? And so their brain's literally not working properly, which leads them into a spin. And so people often think that they need to change something outside, but the reason why I believe regulating your nervous system is so important is because you've got to find some balance internally. And the analogy that I give is, yeah, it's cleaning the windscreen. So imagine if you're driving a car and you've got shit all over your windscreen, right? It's going to be hard to see where you're going, and you're probably going to get a bit frustrated and confused. Regulating your nervous system and reducing stress and anxiety is really about cleaning the windscreen, right? And that's why it's the first part of the process. It's the first thing that I work on with anyone. You guys would know if you're in the community, you get a routine, and I tell you to practice daily. And I'm not just telling you that because I want to, be like discipline, commitment, motivation. Although I do think those are important, it's really about cleaning up your inner world. Right? That's really why I tell you to do that, because it's if you develop a habit where you're consistently kind of like just cleaning up the inner world, then you are going to start to feel a lot clearer and a lot calmer. And then that is when you can move on to the second part, which is really reprogramming your subconscious mind and changing negative belief systems, which is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about reprogramming the subconscious mind, changing negative belief systems, because if you don't work on regulating the nervous system first and you just try to start to change your negative belief systems, right? Again, what you're doing is you're trying to like change your mind when your mind is not even stable, right? Like your mind is unstable, and then you're trying to change your mind. It's just a lot harder, it's just a lot harder to do. And oftentimes it doesn't work, because one thing that I hear really common is that people suffer with negative self-talk or negative belief systems. So just, like let me know in the chat, drop a 111, or just let me know, like, yes, like do you suffer with negative belief systems, or you find yourself being triggered by negative self-talk or negative thoughts? Oftentimes people, intrusive thoughts, negative thoughts, self-doubt, negative self-talk. I already know everyone struggles with this, right? Like Rach just said, but I just like to have a little bit of engagement to make sure you guys are here with me. Um, everyone struggles with that, right? Now, this is why you've got to create some stability first so that you can then reprogram your mind, right? Um, so let's talk about that, right? Let's dive into that now. And I'm going to share with you a different presentation. And this is something that you guys may have seen before as well, but we're just going to dive into it here. And it's something that I've called in the past, the self-awareness codes, all right? I'm just going to walk you through this quickly now. And then this will give you some explanation into how it all works, right? So this is essentially some like a framework or a code for understanding how you work, right? How your inner world works. And so this is really, really powerful stuff. And I want you to just follow along with me for a second, because I'm gonna lead into how do you actually reprogram your subconscious mind, and what does that actually mean? And this is really going to help you to change all of those negative beliefs into positive beliefs. But it's not just about changing the beliefs from negative to positive. It's really about shifting your whole perspective about what these negative thoughts or intrusive thoughts even are. And, how do you deal with them, right? So when it's not really just about changing the thought, because that's a lot of the time people come and they just say to me, I just can't beat these negative thoughts. How do I beat these negative thoughts? How do I stop them? Right? We don't actually necessarily want to stop them. What we want to do is we want to learn how to manage them, and we want to learn how to understand them better and really understand ourselves better. Because if you're in a constant state of resistance to these intrusive thoughts or these negative thoughts, you're trying to like block out a part of your experience. You're trying to say, let's say you've got this whole massive circle of experience in life, right? all these thoughts, all these experiences, they're all happening. And then on one side, there's negative ones, and then sometimes you have positive ones, right? Sometimes you have positive thoughts, sometimes you have positive experiences, sometimes you have negative thoughts, sometimes you have negative experiences. But really, they're all being held in this circle of your experience, right? And your life. Let's just say you imagine a big bubble, right? And that bubble is encapsulating your whole life. And inside that bubble is everything: positive thoughts, negative thoughts, positive experiences, negative experiences. Most people want to go, I don't want any negative experiences. I only want positive experiences. Or I don't want any negative beliefs. I only want positive beliefs. And I get it. Like, I want positive beliefs as well. I don't want negative beliefs. However, there's the key to getting rid of your negative beliefs is not by trying to force them out or push them out. It's actually by accepting them. So I'll give you a personal example. When I was running with this morning with the boys, we're talking about me and one of the other boys. We basically sprinted to the end of to the finish line. One of the guys and I were like quite close, and we're also probably the two fastest guys in the group. And we kind of just the last 100 or 200 meters of the run this morning, I just started sprinting, and PJ, he was next to me, and I kind of took off on him, and then he caught up on me. But then I cut him off. But then he still caught up on me, and he beat me actually. He's got more acceleration than I do. But then we were talking about it when we're having a coffee, and they were just joking around saying, you're not you're not a very good team player. Like, you'd probably be shit at team sports. And I said, yeah, actually, I am not good at team sports. Like, I don't know, I've just historically never been a team player. Not that I'm not a team player. Like, I want everyone to win. But I'm not a team player in the sense of like, that's just not my vibe. It's not my personality. I'm more of I run by myself. Like, I'm, not you guys get what I'm saying, right? I do my own thing. Now I could say to myself, oh, like, why am I not a team player? Like, why do I not do well in team sports? Like, why am I so shit? Why can't I just be better at team sports, right? Or I can just accept that this is who I am, and I just have a laugh about it, and I go, yeah, you know what? I'm actually not very good at being in team sports. So, this is just an example that highlights a point that I'm trying to make here, which is getting rid of negative thoughts. Like, once upon a time when I was in school, perhaps, it would have been a negative, that would have been a negative thing. Like, I didn't fit in in sports teams. I was in soccer, I was in rugby, like, and I never fit in, right? And so that could have been a negative thing, right? But over time, I've matured, and I've just realized it's just not my thing. I'm just more of a, single player. Uh, and it is what it is. And I accept that about myself. And so the point I'm trying to make here is what you've got to do is not try to push away these things that you're currently perceiving as negative, but instead learn how to accept those parts of yourself and actually love those parts of yourself, right? You've got to like bring it together and realize, this is who I am, and this is okay. I'm allowed to be like this, right? So that's kind of the overarching perspective, but we're going to talk about some specifics. We're going to dive into it a little bit more here, right? Like I said, if you imagine there's this bubble of your experience, right? You could call that your consciousness or your awareness. You're aware of this big experience, right? And within this bubble of your experience, you have all of the information, right? All of your awareness, all of your senses, yeah, everything that you perceive in the world is in this bubble of your awareness and your experience, right? And that's really the primary thing that you've got, right? It's just you've got a life, you've got all of these things that happen, you've got all of this information coming in from your family, social environment, work, all this stuff. It's all in your awareness and your consciousness. And that's the bubble of your being. Let's just call it the bubble of your being, right? Now, that's the first thing. We all get that. We all have a life, and that's very awesome. Like, it's great that we have a beautiful life, right? Now, and that's the primary thing. The first thing that happens is we have awareness, right? So when I'm teaching you guys meditation, what I'm trying to teach you is to connect with your awareness. So that's the first thing that we always do. And that's one of the parts of regulating your nervous system, right? It's actually just connecting back to your unfiltered awareness of life, right? So in our meditation, we're really trying not to create thoughts or stories. We're just trying to get back to that unfiltered, pure awareness of the experience that we're having, of the thoughts that we're having, whether they're negative or positive. We're not making them mean anything. We're just becoming aware, right? And that's something that people struggle with, right? Which is why why I teach so much of it in the class, why I'm always answering questions about meditation, right? Why I'm always I'm constantly messaging people who have questions about if they're doing the meditation right. People always tell me, oh, I've tried Calm, I've tried Headspace, I've tried doing, Shavasana at the end of my yoga class, when you do your yoga class and then you lie down and you're like, oh, I'm meant to be meditating now. People don't get it, right? That's why I'm so particular about giving guidance on meditation, right? Because it helps us to connect with that awareness, and it helps us really to have this nice open awareness, right? And that's the first thing that we need to focus on. That's also part of regulating your nervous system. The second thing that happens is we start to have thoughts and beliefs and stories and meaning, right? So we start to assign meaning to the experiences that we're having. We start to say, this is good, this is bad, this should be like this shouldn't be like that. And we start to create thoughts and stories and beliefs about stuff, right? Now, you've got to understand that's always the secondary thing that happens, right? We have our experience and then we make it mean something. Humans are meaning-making machines, right? And what I'm encouraging you to do, firstly, is get behind the story, so connect back with your awareness, but then and clean the windscreen, right? That unfiltered awareness is what we really want, that clean windscreen, right? And then once we've got that, then we can start to change the beliefs, right? And so we can start to change the thoughts. We can start to change the beliefs and stories, and we can start to look at them from this new perspective where we're starting to understand maybe I don't need to believe this thing, or maybe I don't need to make this thought mean anything. Maybe it doesn't need to mean anything. Maybe the fact that I have a negative thought doesn't need to mean that I'm a failure, right? For example, if you're just sitting in a pure awareness, unfiltered, you can just go, oh, there's that thought of self-doubt or negative self-talk or whatever it is. And I can just let it kind of go past, right? I don't need to grab onto it. I can just go, oh, yeah, there it is. But here's what happens, right? And why that's so much easier said than done. It's because when you have a thought or a belief, it will usually then trigger chemicals and hormones and a change in your physiology. So for example, let's say you do have a negative thought of like, oh, I'm not good enough, and then you start to feel frustrated, right? So the chemicals and the hormones in your body will actually change, right? Your nervous system, your physiology will actually start to change, and you'll start to feel different. And so this is where you kind of get stuck in the loop, right? Because you had a thought and now you're feeling something, right? And this is, leading down to your emotions and your feelings here, right? So you go through this bit here is like a feedback loop. Thoughts and belief creates changes in the body, chemicals and hormones, physiology, nervous system starts to change, which creates different emotions and feelings, right? And this is why you can get stuck, because then you're having a thought, but then you're feeling a feeling as well. And so the thought might not be like the most, you might think that the thought, like I'm telling you to not be bothered by the thoughts and just see them as for what they are, which is just a passing thing that just comes and goes. But when you start to have a physiological experience of that's kind of being triggered by that thought, it becomes a lot more real for you, right? So example, if I have this not good enough thought, or I'm never going to make it, or I'm a failure, and then in my body I'm starting to have a felt experience of like, hopelessness or anxiety or high levels of stress or frustration or anger, then it becomes very real, right? And so what we need to do is this is why regulating the nervous system is so important. And it's the first part, because you need to learn how to find balance when you are getting triggered, right? And you need to realize that your emotions and feelings are not something that you need to run away from either. They're something that you can actually sit with and process, right? Because if you're having a thought and it's triggering a feeling, for me, that highlights that you need to process that feeling. There's unprocessed emotions or suppressed emotions, right? And so if that's happening for you, you need to still practice your awareness and your allowance and your acceptance of the experience you're having without making it mean anything extra, right? So without attaching stories to it, instead of attaching stories to it, you just be with whatever you need to feel, and you kind of allow that feeling to just drain out, right? And so that's actually more about part 3, which we're going to talk about next week. But let's stick with how do we actually reprogram these beliefs, right? So let me share my screen again. The next thing that happens, right? Well, actually, this is kind of gives you a broad overview, right? Now, what we want to do is we want to look at how do we actually how do we hack this system, or how do we hack this code, right? And just so you know, your emotions and feelings will then lead to actions and behaviors, results and outcomes, right? And so if you're in an angry state, and you act from an angry state, you're likely to experience results that are going to be, based off your anger. Whereas if you're peaceful, for example, and you act from a peaceful state, then you will experience results that are generally more peaceful in their nature. But let's just talk about how do we actually hack this, right? So as you saw here, we're working with this top-down approach, right? Consciousness, awareness, thoughts, chemicals and hormones, emotions and feelings. Now I'm going to slightly change it. We've got the awareness over here and the thoughts. So we have our awareness, and then in our awareness, we have our thoughts, and then our thoughts lead to our feelings, which is kind of what I just shared with you before. And thoughts and feelings really start to create beliefs. And what happens, there's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. And if you have these, thoughts and feelings and beliefs going into your brain and into your reticular activating system, what you're going to start to do is you're going to look for confirmation of your beliefs. So let's say you believe that you're not good enough or you're a failure, you're going to actually start to have confirmation that, well, this would be a negative confirmation, right? So you're starting to see, oh, that didn't work out for me. That relationship didn't work. Like, oh, I had this experience yesterday. So your reticular activating system is constantly looking for confirmation of what you believe. So if you believe you're not good enough, you believe you're anxious, you believe you're this, you believe you're that, your brain is actually picking up and confirming your beliefs, and consistent confirmation leads to confidence. So you will start to become confident in your belief, or convicted in your beliefs. And now you might be wondering why we've got one arrow going up and one arrow going down. Is because you can have negative confidence, or you can have positive confidence. So for example, some people who come and work with me are so confident that they are an anxious mess, right? They're very, very confident in the fact that they have anxiety, and their anxiety is really fucking with their life. People are very confident in that. They're very convicted in that, right? And what I'm suggesting here is that you can actually hijack this process over here, awareness, thoughts, and feelings. And so this is a part of the mind launch method that I teach you, right? In the morning routine, right? We are doing our meditation, right? The way that I teach you guys to build our awareness. We're doing the journaling to change the thoughts. And over time, that leads to a change in feelings as well, and a change in beliefs. And then what we really are doing as well is we're doing this every single day, because we're trying to build positive confirmation, right? So the simple fact that you do the habits and the routine every day is positive confirmation that you're moving in the right direction. And if you just stick to it over time, you get confident, right? Whereas if you stop doing the routine and you basically end up in a mess, and you start having all these negative experiences, you're going to start to build negative, confirmation, which is going to lead to negative confidence. This is why I believe doing self-development and making it part of your life is so critical, because the more that you work on yourself, the more confirmation that you're going to have that you're moving in the right direction, and the more positive confidence that you're going to have. The more that you just allow yourself to be a mess, right? Then you're going to have more negative confirmation, and, you're going to develop negative confidence. I can't do it. I'm just so convicted and I can't do it, right? So that's how we reprogram the subconscious mind, right? If you want to take a screenshot of that, or just, if you were taking notes, you can obviously, write this down in your book. You can ask questions about this in the Q&A calls on Tuesday night if you want. But this is essentially how we reprogram the mind, right? And this is obviously oversimplified. It doesn't go into a lot of the nuances of like neurobiology and psychology and all that kind of stuff. I've been reading a lot of books around that lately. And yeah, a lot of the scientific community will always talk about how people oversimplify things, and it is oversimplified. So I just want to make sure you guys know that. But that's essentially the process, and it helps you to have some understanding of how it works. So like what we're really wanting to do is we're wanting to connect back with our awareness firstly to create that clean windscreen and that unfiltered awareness. And then we're able to, from there, we're able to see our thoughts more clearly, and we're able to start to change our thoughts or change our perspective of our thoughts, right? And over time, that will start to change our feelings and the experience we're having in our body. And our brain's going to start to pick up these new beliefs that we're developing, and it's going to look for positive confirmation. So this is another reason why I'm constantly, every single week, asking you guys to share your wins, right? Because it's more positive confirmation, more positive confirmation. And over time, you build this habit of looking for positive confirmation, and all of a sudden, you've got a positive mindset, right? You're starting to become confident in your positive mindset. You know, when people tell me, when I ask people how you're going, I almost don't even ask that question anymore, because it's an opportunity for people to say, oh, you know, I just still can't get a hold of my negative self-talk, or, you know, I'm still so anxious, right? Every time you say that, that's negative confirmation, negative confirmation. And I don't care if that's still what you're experiencing. Like, I have compassion, obviously, but I want you to start to reprogram your mind. Like I always tell people to say, I'm on the journey of becoming calmer and happier. So, you know, if someone says, how are you? You know, and you are feeling anxious, it's fine. Just you almost got to like lie to yourself, not in a way of suppressing what you're feeling, but just saying, like, being real and saying, like, I'm on the journey of becoming calmer. I'm on the journey of like healing. I'm on the journey of becoming more confident, right? You've got to switch around the language, switch around the thoughts, stop using the negative language and start using the positive language, and be consistent in that every single day, and consistently look for positive confirmation. And over time, you'll build a stack of evidence that proves that you are moving in the right direction, and that will help you develop positive confidence. And that's really how you reprogram your subconscious mind. So I hope that's been helpful for you. Yeah, Rach says, yes, I agree with that question. I'm not a fan of how you're going. Yeah. I worked with a coach once, and he basically said to me, you know, human training, like human behavior and training humans and self-development is kind of like training a dog, right? You don't reward a dog if it shits in the lounge room, right? So we don't want to be rewarding people for negative behavior, essentially, right? So I know I come across probably quite stern and a bit blunt sometimes, but I'm doing it from a place of deep compassion and empathy and love. I just really sometimes the purpose of me teaching the way I do is just to snap you out of it, right? Like, just you got to snap out of it, and you've got to start to move in the right direction, right? If you continue to be rewarded for negative behavior, you won't change, right? And what I mean by that is, I talked to Rach about this recently, actually. Sometimes there's a lot of benefits to being stuck in poor mental health issues. For example, and it's much more complex than this, don't get me wrong, but you know, this is one of the things that I'll often ask, is like, what is the benefit of you staying stuck? So for example, if you're really anxious or you're really depressed, let's say, some of the benefits, if people are constantly like consoling you and checking in on you and making sure you're all right, and like, you know, giving you love when you're depressed or anxious, you learn that me being depressed and anxious means I get love from people, right? This is one of the big problems, I believe, with mental health issues, is because, you know, people start to, you know, get into these negative mental states, and they get more attention, right? They get more love. And so it becomes a benefit to actually be in that state because it's comfortable, right? And so, like I said, we want to snap out of it, and we want to just start to change, and we don't want to reward people for negative behavior. It doesn't mean not have compassion and not have empathy and not have love, but it just means to really think about, you know, how can we be actually helpful, as opposed to just, sometimes the most loving thing that you can do is really, you know, draw a line with someone, right? As opposed to allowing negative behavior to continue. right? That's sometimes the most loving thing to do, which is, probably not something that you would have thought about before, but sometimes you've got to do that, right? I speak to people all the time who thought they were doing the right thing by, giving lots of time, lots of attention, lots of energy, lots of money even, and to people, and then realizing that that wasn't helping them at all. It didn't help them develop any of their own personal, sovereignty, any of their own personal capacity to deal with issues. If you overgive to people, firstly, you're usually burning yourself out, and secondly, you're not allowing them the opportunity to build their own capacity, right? And so that's really a different way of looking at it, which I believe is very important. So anyway, that tip for today, guys, that's that's reprogramming the subconscious mind. Last week was regulating the nervous system, so you can find that in the coaching community or on the YouTube. This week, focusing on reprogramming the subconscious mind. Next week, we're going to be focusing on healing suppressed emotions, and we kind of touched on that a little bit today, but next week we're going to really dive into that. But just to recap, final review for this session: really stick to your routines and really be conscious about what kind of language that you allow in your head and out of your mouth as well, right? Really try to reduce negative language mentally and externally, internally and externally, and increase positive language internally and externally. And the caveat here is, if you do notice yourself with negative language, accept it as quick as you can. Don't try to fight it. Just accept it. Oh yeah, that's just a part of what I'm experiencing, right? It's okay, right? Don't try to push it away. Don't try to resist it. Don't try to fight it. Allow it in your bubble of beingness and just accept yourself and love yourself, even the negative parts of yourself, right? So if you have any questions about that, of course, you can always message me. And that's it for today, guys. I will see you next week. Bye.